Good evening. Not only do I want to thank you all for having us here, but I was a student in 1968 when this building was first opened and these desks weren't even here. We held our classes sitting on the steps. So it's nice to see furniture finally and students that really care. Because I'm from the 60s, and back in my day, student activity in government was very important. I was a student here in 1968. Although I was on the 1968 to graduate in 81 plan, the 70s got in the way. But I saw a lot of student life change here, and I was involved with helping open up the dormitories to co-ed life, which was much more realistic. We organized a student advisement committee, because after 1 year, as orientation went through, we realized there was a severe lacking in what the administration was teaching the kids about life on campus. So with some faculty help, we formed something called the head counselors, where we advise students during orientation about the real life on campus. I was also the head of security during all those legendary concerts that we had here in the 70s. Those of you who don't know our history, there was some exceptional rock and roll shows here throughout the 70s, and I was the student in charge of the security. I'm not a lawyer. I'm running as a lay judge. New Paltz has a long tradition of fine and qualified lay judges, and we receive training as mandated by state law. And regarding the types of cases, which we'll see in the town courts. I've held many jobs since I left New Paltz and came back and finally graduated. I was a national salesman for industrial supply companies, dealing mostly with municipalities, so I'm extremely familiar with town government. I was also the road manager of a Hall of Fame rock and roll band called The Band for 11 years, and traveled the world and the country dealing with many different types of situations, from security on up to dealing with venue managers of all sizes, from all nations, and traveled this country back and forth many, many times. I also waited 9 years for a liver transplant, which I finally received 18 months ago. I'm recovered, I have a new lease on life, a brighter outlook, and I want to continue to give back to my town. I was very active in this community for many years, whether as vice chairman of the New Paltz School Bus Drivers Association, or a member of the planning board, member of the comprehensive planning committee, and many other things, as well as political involvement. Who do we want to stand before if we have a legal problem, if you find ourselves in trouble, or if we're a victim of a crime? I was all those things. And I can bring my life experience through the many facets of my life to bear when standing in a justice court. When you come before me, if not you, and somebody you may know, whether it's a speeding ticket, a fight in town, a landlord problem. I've been a landlord and I've been a tenant much more times, and I understand. I rented a house out in Plattekill one time when we ran out of water because the well froze. In those days, the landlord gave us a shovel and a match and said, build a fire and defrost the ground, and when you get down to the well, we'll fix it. So things have changed. They're not as bad as they used to be, but there's still some horror stories. I'll be tough on crime. I'll be tough on criminals. I want our town to be a safe place to live. But I also believe in educating your residents about your legal rights and responsibilities, and I believe in helping people who make mistakes get back on the good foot, on the safe road, because I've made mistakes too. I will apply myself diligently to learning all the applicable laws in every case before making a decision which will affect your life, as I did when I was chair of the planning board and helped our citizens in that type of public service. I also want to apologize publicly to Toni Hokanson for the treatment that she received at the Republican caucus. As a lifelong Republican, even though my mother is still a very liberal Democrat, totally embarrassed by my behavior, I was in favor of endorsing Toni for supervisor because of the superb job she's done. And unfortunately, there's a faction in the Republican Party who doesn't always believe in fairness, which is why I'm an outcast and a black sheep in the Republican Party. Something I'm fairly proud of. So Toni, you should have been cross-endorsed. I'm grateful for the trust that you've had in me in the past. I ask for your continued trust and your vote in this election. Thank you.